Um, one of the big reasons that we created this geospatial habitat database was because we had a number of organizations asking us for a tool or resource that they could record their conservation measures on in the rights of way, and they could track them, and then they could record their pollinator habitat scorecards, but also ways that they could share what they're doing with neighboring rights of way organizations. So there's a lot of overlaps that we see across the US of rights of way. And if one organization is creating habitat on their land, they know that another organization is interested in creating habitat or doing something similar, then they can share their data on the geospatial database, and they can say, oh, organization A is here. We might as well also do our habitat focused work on nearby, and so then we can have this concerted effort to create this habitat and then sustain it, and then one person doesn't go and mow somebody else's habitat where it may be overlaying. So there's a lot of benefits to sharing it with other rights of way organizations. There's also a lot that can happen with the public dashboard. So the data that is put into this dashboard or the database is aggregated and anonymized, and some of that data is taken out and shared with the public. And so, you know, any organization can go and look at the public dashboard, and they can say they can see how many monarchs are being supported in what state, how many organizations are tracking their conservation measures. And so it's supporting that cross-sector collaboration, not only between different rights of way organizations, but also, you know, we're outside stakeholders or external stakeholders are seeing the benefits of that kind of work, and that can be the impetus needed for collaboration as well. How you go about starting this data sharing, and this is done, and we'll walk through this step by step, is you can choose which organizations you're sharing what data with just when you first get started. And so I'll show you that next. But you can say, oh, you know, my neighboring landowners, I don't want to share anything with them. I can share some basic information, or I can share detailed information. And then you can also, through the public REST endpoints, you can also communicate some of those conservation efforts, both internally and externally, through the specific data points that you choose to share. And that's also a really neat tool that we've got on the database. So as I mentioned, so on the Rights of Way Habitat Working Group website, under the Geospatial Database tab, you can see that there are or that there's an intake questionnaire, and the intake questionnaire has you specify if you want to share that data and how you want to share that data. So this is just one example, but you can choose if you want to share your center lines, if you want to share your management areas, sites, and pollinator scorecard. And if all of that sounds foreign to you, then you can go back on our previous geospatial database roundtables and learn more about those, but I don't want to belabor the point by going into those again today. And then you can choose, so if you did want to share your central lines, then you can choose which organization you're going to share your central lines with, and then the sharing level that you share those with. When I say sharing level, there is a guide on the Geospatial Database webpage, on the working group webpage, that shows, so if you select basic sharing level and then a specific organization, they can see the location of the, let's say, center line, or they can see the site/management area overview, but they could not see the specific notes that you're putting into that document. And you can see that the public dashboard is showing the organization type, so it will give more information than that. The location down to the county level. the total acres, and then the number of monitoring points. And so there's a little bit more details farther down, but you can decide how much data to share based on this, looking at the detailed sharing level, the basic sharing level. And then, of course, there are things that are only seen internally that would not show up for. So that's just kind of a basic overview of the different types of sharing and why you'd be doing the sharing. As I mentioned earlier, we have Don Morrison, who is our geospatial habitat database guru, and he is going to be walking us through the public dashboard, and I'll also put a link into the chat, the public dashboard, how to share with other organizations, and then that public dashboard. That I'm going to stop sharing the screen.
All right, Caroline, I should be sharing my screen now.
Yep, looks great.
Okay, so I'll take over now.
That sounds perfect, and I'll put the link in now. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Caroline. Right, so as Caroline mentioned, we're going to go over the 3 different sharing types. We're going to go into a little more detail in each one, talk about both how to configure them and kind of show kind of the sharing in action. So the first thing we're going to look at is the public dashboard, which I'm guessing most people are familiar with this already. And the key points with the public dashboard are this really is truly open to the public. So anybody on the web who has this link is able to view this dashboard. There's no need for ArcGIS credentials or anything like that. And there's no configuration necessary. When you enter your features into the rights-of-way database, it's going to that information is going to be rolled up into this dashboard. And because it is public and you don't have a choice, as Carolyn mentioned, we do both aggregate and anonymize the information. And you can see that in the map, the acreage that's being managed by organizations in the database is rolled up at a county level and also at state level. Also, we've got some in the bottom left-hand corner, we've got the acreage by state, but also by sector. When you enroll in the rights-of-way database, you set a setting as to what kind of sector you're in. So we also have some aggregation along those levels. I won't go into all of the dials and everything here. There's a real nice reference guide on the bottom here that kind of goes into what's in the database and what's in the dashboard, I should say. So I recommend kind of taking a look at that, and if you want to dive into this a little bit further. Another important point with the dashboard is that the information gets updated on a nightly basis. So if you were to, come in one day and enter all of your information into the database, adding sites and pollinator scorecards, it won't show up. It won't have any effect on the dashboard until the next day. So a little patience there. Any questions on the public dashboard before we move on here? Okay, the second kind of sharing, which I call internal feature sharing, is where you can share the specific feature information on all of your scorecards and sites and management areas with other organizations. And as Carolyn pointed out, there's kind of different levels of granularity. You can basically kind of take the easy way out and say, I want to share everything with everybody. Or you can say, I want to share nothing with anybody, and everything in between. You can also say, I want to share only scorecard points and sites with organizations XYZ. I want to share other management areas with a different organization. So there's a lot of flexibility here, and that sometimes brings complexity, but we'll try to kind of go through it and show how it is set up and sort of see it in action. And Carolyn also already went over how it's initially set up through the enrollment form. What I'd like to do is kind of go and show you how an organization can alter that configuration once it's deployed, and once again kind of take a look at how it kind of works in action. So in this, I'm going to kind of wear two hats. There's always two organizations: the one that's doing the sharing, the one that's going to be seeing the shared data. So in this case, the organization doing the sharing is the ERC organization, the Energy Resource Center. And the organizations that it's going to share with is the demo organizations. Now, neither of these are real organizations. They're just sort of test organizations that we've set up. So we're not dealing with we're not dealing with any of your data here. We're just kind of dealing with this kind of test data. So once again, I'll be kind of switching back and forth. I'll try to give you a heads up when I switch roles, but it's kind of important you realize there's, in one case I'm the person doing the sharing, in another case I'm the person who's going to see the effectiveness. Okay, so let's say that I'm the data manager for the ERC organization, and I've already been deployed. I want to see my sharing configuration. The easiest way to do that, at least in my mind, is to go into ArcGIS Pro, and
I'm working on it.
Okay, give me a second here to get ArcGIS Pro back up. Okay, there we go. Okay, so I open ArcGIS Pro, and once again, I'm the ERC data manager. So I want to look at my sharing configuration. So I need to sign in as a user that has access to the rights-of-way database, to the ERC group specifically. And in ArcGIS Pro, we can access the REST endpoints that have this data by coming over to Portal, My Groups, look at Groups, and go down to the ERC management group. Once I got the ERC hat on now, okay? You double click on that. It'll bring up the REST services that I have access to. And this REST admin is the one that's the key. I want to add that to the current map. And you can see there are two tables. One's called collaboration, one's called organization. The collaborations table is the one we want to go into. We want to open that up. And we're going to see how what our sharing configuration is right now. And these are what I would call sharing directives. In this table, there are three key fields: the receiving organization ID, who I'm sharing with, the feature type. In other words, we've got the four main feature types: center lines, management areas, pollinators, scorecards, and sites, and the sharing level for that particular record. So those are the three fields you need to kind of pay attention to. So you can see right now, ERC is sharing all the feature types with the demonstration organization, and they're all at the basic level. Now I can alter this. Let's say I want to share management areas at the detail level. I could say, make the change. I can delete a record. This one I want to delete, but it's not supposed to be there. Delete role. I can share with a different organization. I can change the organization I want to share with. Anyway, you get the idea, I think, pretty quickly. Yeah. You can add records if you want to share with different organizations, and you can add as many records as you want here to kind of complete your sharing specification. And the other thing is that whenever you make a change here, you have to do save. And it won't take effect until you save it. So we're going to save it. Okay, so this is a view of I'm the ERC manager setting up my sharing. Once again, we're sharing each of the feature types with the demonstration organization. Now we're going to switch hats, and we're going to go put on the demo hat, the demo organization hat. I want to see the effects of that sharing. So I'm going to open up, go into my management group, open up my web map. Now, so every organization has this web map with your organization's data. So this, and the primary purpose of this map is to show, my data as the demonstration organization. So we can see we've got some pollinator sort cards, we've got some center lines, we've got a, kind of a mishmash of data. And we are going to, what we want to see is how do we see that shared data from ERC? And the way we see that is by going to our layers. These first 4 layers are the ones that are turned on right now. There's another layer called shared data. All right, and we're going to turn that on. By default, it's off. We're assuming normally when you come into the map, you want to see your own data. But if you want to see the data being shared with you, you simply turn these on. And we should see some new features pop up. Right, these gray circular features, we go to the legend, we'll see our shared pollinator scorecard points. All right, so now you can see there's additional data in the map. And this is all the data that all the other organizations within the database are sharing with you. You can see who's doing the sharing by clicking on it. And the pop-up should come up. And you can see this, I'm not sure if you can read that, but it's Northern Indiana Public Service Company has decided to share its data with the demonstration organization, so which shows up in the map under these shared layers. So if we look around a little more, we're going to see this strange looking, it's a shared site out in Lake Michigan. And if we click on that, we see this is the energy resource area. So this is the data that the ERC organization is sharing with me. And it's a very distinctive E out in Lake Michigan. Okay, so that's an example of how you would see shared data coming from a different organization. You turn on the shared data layers, and the legend would kind of let you know which of those features are coming from outside, and then you can click on it and find who they're coming from. Okay, so we're going to switch hats again. Let's say we're the ERC data manager, and we don't want to share the site information. So we go back to ArcGIS Pro. Once again, the hat I'm wearing now is the ERC data manager. And I'd say, I don't want to share my sites anymore. I want to keep those secret. Or I'm embarrassed because they're in the middle of Lake Michigan. All we have to do is we have to turn the sharing to no sharing. And save. And this takes effect immediately. So if I go back to my map and switching hats again, I'm going to be, now I'm the demo user. ERC is no longer sharing this feature type with me. So if I jiggle the map so it redraws, it goes away. So that's an example of how, I could be seeing some shared data one day and the next day I couldn't, because it was whoever was sharing the data kind of opted out of it. All right. One thing, the key is that you as an organization want to fill this table out so that it has the effect that you want. It's quite easy. You can, if you want to share everything with everybody, you can just an organization, you could just say all. I want to share all sites at the basic level, and save it. And another kind of important piece here is that there's sort of a conflict here, right? There's a conflict because in one row we're saying we don't want to share with anything with the demonstration organization, any site data. In another row we're saying we want to share sites with everybody. So the way it works is that, and this may be counterintuitive, is that we use the highest level of sharing. So in this case, we are going to share with the demonstration organization. We take whatever is the highest level of sharing you've specified and use that. So if we go back to our map, hopefully, we should see it show up again. I haven't tested, there it is, okay. So you can see that even though there's one record saying don't share, there's another record saying share it. So we use the share record. Okay, so once again, so the key points here with this kind of internal granular feature sharing is that you can only share it with other rights-of-way users. In other words, only users that have ArcGIS credentials and are members of another rights-of-way organization can see this data. So this can't be made public. It's read-only. There's no way I'm the demo user now. There's no way I can edit this information. I can only view it. And once again, there's granularity with who I share it with, which feature types, and what level of detail. The initial configuration is set up, whoever sets up your organization initially is going to set the initial sharing specification. But after that, probably the best way to do it is going in through ArcGIS Pro, updating that table appropriately. You can also access the REST endpoint service through ArcGIS Online, but in those cases you can't add or delete records. You can only change existing records. So I would recommend going in through ArcGIS Pro. And the other key is that the updates take place immediately. So you shouldn't have to worry about any kind of delay in that case. Any questions before we move on to the third and final aspect? Okay, so this third capability, what we call public feature sharing, is kind of a request that came in kind of after we had things deployed. So we didn't initially plan for this, but the request was that, as you see, we can share specific feature data, but only users with the proper ArcGIS credentials can access that. And there was a request that they wanted to be able to, there were organizations that did want to share their specific feature data with the public. I think in the case I'm thinking of, they wanted to, I believe, generate a report with live data that they could send to their management team, and they didn't want to have to, have their management team get ArcGIS credentials and have to remember the passwords and all that. They just wanted to, they were okay with having a public, and they just wanted some way to make that happen. And once again, the existing way we did the feature sharing didn't allow that. It was all secure, locked down. Okay, so this public feature sharing, so the key features points here, it enables sharing all your features, and once again, there's some granularity. You can say, it's opt-in. You can say, I want to share my sites with everybody, management areas, or pollinator scorecard points. And once again, if you opt into that, it truly is public. Anybody on the web with the right link can access it. There is no, initially when you enroll, there is no configuration. It's the assumption is that you're not going to share with the public. So you basically have to opt in. And the changes do happen immediately. So we're going to show you how you kind of opt in and kind of how that works. So once again, we're going to go back to ArcGIS Pro. And remember, I got the ERC hat on now. I'm in the ERC organization management group, and I've navigated down to this REST admin REST service. Remember, there are two tables. There was collaborations and the organization table. The organization table is where the configuration is for the public feature share. So if we open that, you'll only see one row here. It's only one record. And if you go over to the right, you'll see there are three fields. Share sites public, share management areas public, and pollinator scorecard. So you can see the ERC organization is saying, I, as the ERC data manager, saying I want to share my sites and management areas, but not my pollinator scorecards. And we can see that, we can actually access the map, because the map is the, what happens is that data gets published into the REST public data REST service. So if we add this to the map, we will see, what we'll see is all of the features that have been made public from those organizations that have opted into this public data sharing. So they're all served up in one REST endpoint. I'm not sure how well you can see that, but there's a cluster out here in Idaho. There's a cluster here in Minnesota. So obviously some organizations in those states have opted into public sharing. And remember, the ERC organizations opted in. So if we zoom in, we ought to see that E in Lake Michigan, and there it is. This is that site that belongs to the ERC organization, and you can see it shows up on this map too, on this public sharing map. And we can very easily turn that off if we want to do the same sort of thing where we change our mind. Once again, we're going to have to save it. There we go. Save it. And if we update the map, it should disappear. Very good. And we can turn it back on. And refresh the map. Okay, so there you have, you see it in action. That's the public data sharing. So once again, it's these features in this map that are served up in this public REST data endpoint are truly public, and you have to opt in if you want your features to be included in this REST service. And you can, the only level of granularity you have, you can say, you know, which of the 3 feature or class types that you want to include in that. And once again, any updates you make are really immediately available. That covers the 3 types. I guess, Carolyn, we can open it up for questions now.
But can you show what it looks like from the public standpoint to look at that data that's shared? Because they're not going to be looking at it from ArcGIS Pro, is that right?
Yeah. Let's see, how would I do it?
And this is Dan Williams. While you're checking that down, if people are interested in having the public view the information, and this may have come up in the past, but does our database track who visits? If these people are interested in making it public, then do they have an interest? Have they inquired about then getting a report on who actually visited? I would think that would be of interest, and I'm not saying we want to go there, but just curious if that's come up. I can't remember. Thank you.
Yeah, Dan, I don't think that's come up. So you're saying some way of tracking even these anonymous accesses to this kind of public data. I would say that hasn't come up, unless Carolyn or Iris. Yeah.
I don't think I've heard of anybody. I think what's from the internal, for the people that want to share it internally, they send it, and I think, you know, just the feedback that they get is how they know.
That's fine, and I'm not suggesting we want to go there anyway with it. So just curious if it come up. I know, you know, in other settings, if information is made public, then of course the very next question that gets asked is, okay, well, who was it? And we may say we don't want to go there. You know, it's out there. If you want to track stuff, you can do it some other.
Yeah, that would get into some.
Thank you.
Yeah, that would probably get into some type of tracking that. I guess you know, Google trackers and that kind of stuff that can kind of in some way track anonymous accesses, because we don't have any kind of user ID signing in, so I'm not sure how we would do that, but there are smarter people, I'm sure, know how to figure that out. So back to what Carolyn, her question was say it again, Carolyn, so I'm answering the right question.
So what would it look like? So if I said, okay, Don, I've given you access to data, I've made it public. What would it look like to access that data if you don't have access to like ArcGIS Pro?
Yeah. Okay. So if you don't have access to ArcGIS Pro, I mean, it's being served up in a REST service that my guess is that standard Esri, ArcGIS REST service. So I think there's probably, I'm not sure if it's open source or there are other products that can interact with these REST services. I think the way we sort of envisioned it would require you to maybe come in here and create a map. Maybe you put it in a map and then make that map kind of publicly accessible. You could take this, you could open it in a map viewer. Anyway, you go and then save it, and make that map public. But certainly the data itself is public. If you can access, you got any kind of software that can access the REST service, then you can do whatever you want with the data. But we, like I said, we didn't really make it really consumable other than making it available through the REST service. You can come in here and you can see the data that would be delivered up. But I think typically, especially if you're interested in your own data, you put some sort of filter on it to say, I only want to see my public data. In the case where the organization wanted to do a management report, they would have to, what I think they were going to do is they were going to create a web map based on the REST service, put a filter on it so they only saw their data, and then whatever else they want to do to put it into their map or their kind of format.
Yeah, this is exactly what I was thinking of. This is perfect stuff.
Yeah. Well, once again, we didn't really go the extra step to say, we sort of know what you want to do with it. We just sort of put the REST service out there, and kind of at that point, you got to, someone's got to figure out what to do with it.
We haven't gotten any questions into the chat, but feel free to unmute if you have any clarifying questions, or if you've tried this, or any experiences that you've had with it. Or if anybody is excited to use this and how how they might use it in the future. We've got a pretty quiet group then today. Well, if there are no other questions, then I'm going to share my screen. And just another prompt for you. So, and if anyone is feeling bold, Michelle is excited to use it. So thank you, Michelle. Oh, and did you unmute? No. Okay. So has anyone had any challenges so far using the database, using any of these data sharing, or has anybody used it? We've got a couple that have used it.
Carolyn, I have a question for people. Has anybody moved to ArcGIS Pro 3? Is that something that people are doing, or just I'm kind of curious? Maybe a show of hands of people that have moved to ArcGIS Pro 3? Okay, I don't see any.
Matt says no, he has not.
Yeah.
Things that we thought, and NOFA also says.
Is anybody planning to do that in the next, say, 6 months? The reason I ask is because we published this tool set that runs in ArcGIS Pro, and I'm not sure if we need to make changes to make it compatible with ArcGIS 3, but it sounds like there's no real urgency on that. We can kind of put that off for a while.
Taylor at Mergent says that they have, but yeah, if you have experienced any kind of challenges with the database after you've made that change, we're interested in hearing about them so we can keep up with the times and change whatever we need to. Any, so I guess in addition or alongside this question about guidance and training, that would be helpful. So next roundtable discussion, our final one, we're planning it in March. We're going to be focusing on monitoring and survey 1, 2, 3. So knowing that's ahead of us, any additional guidance or training or resources that would be helpful to make using the database easier or fun? You can always email me. My email is below, and I've been emailing you all about the database, and please not respond to me there. And we're going to post this recording onto the database website under tools and